It's interesting what's going on here with Tucker Carlson, because the Republicans in the Senate, in particular, are hammering Tucker Carlson. Simultaneously, we should say that there have been new revelations in the Dominion suit that show Tucker Carlson, hates Donald Trump. He's a fraud. The guy's a fraud. I mean, he can hate Donald Trump, and I may personally hate Joe Biden, but still can speak well of his policies or ill of his policies. I mean, that's fine. But Tucker Carlson's a fraud. Everybody knows it. Let's just start with Kevin McCarthy trying to justify giving access to all of the congressional video footage to Tucker Carlson, who picked moments where there was no violence, literally minutes of hundreds of hours of camera footage where there was no violence, to prove nothing violent happened that day. Seth Meyer had a great joke where he showed a clip of from John Wick, that Keanu Reeves movie where John Wick is feeding his puppy and going don't tell me John Wick is a violent guy. He's feeding his puppy. So Kevin McCarthy now has really blundered into this because the Senate is pissed at him. Here's Kevin McCarthy trying to justify this stuff.
Because of the footage that you gave Tucker Carlson last night, he went on and said this was a mostly peaceful chaos, as he said. He downplayed Brian Sicknick's death, said it was not related to January 6th, said this was not an insurrection. Do you regret giving him this footage so he could whitewash the events of that day?
No, I said at the very beginning, transparency. And so what I wanted to produce for everybody is exactly what I said, that people could actually look at it and see what's gone on that day. So.
But why, Mr. Speaker, this portrayal of what happened that day?
Look, each person can come up with their own conclusion, but what I just wanted to make sure is I had transparency.
Do you believe
because I know in CNN, I had here where you guys actually broke where we were. This was a secret location, Fort McLaren. I don't know if you got concerned by that. I don't even know from a point of view of security if we could ever be taken there again. But when you broke that at CNN, that was a real concern to a lot of people. I had a real concern also when I wanted to make sure transparency. Look, the officer's death is tragic.
Okay, and incidentally, the Capitol Police basically said this was a horrific thing to do. Mitch McConnell, rank and file Republican senators, also largely rejected Fox personality Tucker Carlson's vision of the deadly attempted insurrection as a mostly peaceful protest that involved little violence. McConnell said this. It was a mistake, in my view, for Fox News to depict it in a way that's completely at variance with what our chief law enforcement official here at the Capitol thinks. Senator Kevin Cramer.
North Dakota.
From North Dakota, Republican. To somehow put January 6th in the same category as a permitted peaceful protest is just a lie.
Wow.
That's pretty serious.
He's not usually such an independent guy. But North Dakotans, in my anecdotal experience, weren't pleased by what they saw on January 6th, and most wanted to think it was Antifa
Mike Rounds
staging something.
Mike Rounds, South Dakota. I was there on January 6th. I saw what happened. It was violence. It was an insurrection. These are the Republicans.
It's fascinating to see the cleave of the House and the Senate on this particular issue, too, that McCarthy, obviously the standard bearer for the House, still pretty ardently defending it, and then rank and file up to McConnell being like, this is kind of nonsense that Fox is putting out there.
Yeah, can we just address the transparency claim?
Well, hold on one second. I want to get there. I'm going to get there. Manger, who is this, I guess, the Capitol Police guy. The most disturbing accusation from last night was our late friend colleague Brian Sicknick's death had nothing to do with his actions on January 6th. Had Sicknick not fought valiantly for hours on the day he was violently assaulted, his Sicknick would not have died the next day. But let's talk about Oh, Senator John Neely Kennedy for Republican Louisiana. I was there on January 6th. It was not peaceful. It was an abomination. The idea that the Capitol Police served as tour guides for the QAnon shaman was outrageous and false, said Manger. Some Republicans have privately criticized the decision to give Carlson exclusive access to the footage. An irritated Representative Mike Turner, Ohio, said, what would help the partisan tenor is if you actually interviewed us on why you invited us on your show, which is talk about my job and chairman. Okay, because he was pissed that he had to deal with this stuff. But here's the point. I just want you to think about this, regardless of where you are on the political spectrum. Is it right for McCarthy, who wants to have transparency about these tapes? I don't think that concept is necessarily bad. I think if you give an opportunity for the Capitol Police to say we got to take this part out, we got to take that part out because this is really too sensitive. Maybe there are none of those. And we should release these tapes to the public. That's what transparency is. Mitt Romney has another idea of transparency. I can't forecast what Speaker McCarthy was thinking about, but if you're going to give footage, give it to all the networks, not just one.
Or just throw it online.
I think it's dangerous to suggest, the thing to do to suggest it. Well, the point is that transparency can take a couple of different forms. It could be we're going to give this to a bunch of reporters, across the spectrum, all the networks, let's say. Or we're going to put it online and just make it the Smithsonian.
Open source is like the Nixon tapes.
Yeah, the Smithsonian. Whatever. But the concept of the Speaker of the House, who clearly has an agenda, giving it to one reporter or even a couple of reporters at that network, let's say, who clearly have an agenda, is messed up. It speaks poorly on Kevin McCarthy and his complete fabricated lie. It also speaks poorly on those reporters because obviously they're just cherry picking what is making their narrative. Now, if you see a parallel with other recent dumps of documents or information to a select few of ideological reporters, well, I think that's a fair comparison. And why it's both corrupt from the perspective of the person who wants a story being told and from the person who's telling the story. Because McCarthy's not giving footage to MSNBC or to Al Jazeera or to CNN or to One America Network or whatever it is. He's just giving it to Tucker Carlson. And guess what? Tucker Carlson has an agenda.
Yeah, the truth. Fighting wokeness.
Or just an analog, if it were, for example, Hakeem Jeffries instead, and giving it to Chris Hayes.
Honestly,
giving it to
would
Lawrence,
there be 30 seconds where people were like, are you kidding?
Giving it to Lawrence O'Donnell or something like that. Just some like take your pick. It would be front page news forever on the right. It's
for decades. Also, another analogy, if Chris Hayes or let's say, Phil Griffin gave an ad that was going to run from Republicans, from Donald Trump on MSNBC and gave it to the Biden campaign. Are you kidding me? Or if, Chris Hayes was shown to be just imagine for a moment. Yeah, here it is. This is the email. This comes from the discovery from the Dominion suit. This is from, and we know it's from it's from
Rupert Murdoch to Jared Kushner. Below you start go to bottom up.
Your advertisement, Adva, at 1 p.m. this Sunday is an improvement. This is back, I think, when Fox owned. Did they still own Fox? Oh, they still own Fox Sports. 1 p.m. on this Sunday is going to be a football game. It's going to be a national ad. But Biden is in the same football, is extremely good. Or I think so. We'll send it. Not even a hesitation. He's sending advances of ads that he thinks is really good. Maybe you want to counter this ad before it comes up.
Yeah, because in the September 24th one below, he says, Jared, know you were spending less on TV than Biden. However, my people tell me his ads are a lot better creatively than yours. Just passing by it on.
Yep. On top of which, imagine, let's say, if since we're playing this if game, if that happened with MSNBC. Do we have like any? Oh yeah, here's some Brett Baer emails.
Oh yeah.
This is Brett Baer, the news guy on Fox. They called Arizona. I know you guys are feeling the pressure, but this situation is getting uncomfortable, really uncomfortable. I have to keep on defending this on air and ask questions about it, and it seems we're holding on for pride. I
know the confidence.
I know the confidence you say you had in the numbers, but it's at least within the realm of possible that he closes the gap now. This is how he's freaking out about Arizona. And to be clear, the guy was named Bill Salmon.
Yeah.
Who incidentally had a long history of being a propagandist for Fox, like attacking numbers like on climate change and a bunch of other things. Salmon said there's no doubt the gap may close, but there is absolutely no doubt that Biden's going to win Arizona. He subsequently was fired. And Brett Baer is going, it's hurting us. The sooner we pull it, even if it gives us a major egg, we put it back in his column, the better we are, in my opinion. He's showing an email from the viewers. This is the way they construct news there. Based upon, I mean, like when we're talking numbers, it's one thing like the tenor of it, they're attacking, don't attack Biden so much or be more anti-Trump. This is just straight on numbers from their news guy saying, can't we just fudge the numbers a little bit? Do we really have to be just so focused on the numbers?
Because it's making him like personally uncomfortable. He's like, I don't know what to say. I keep getting questions.
Let's go to more on that Dominion lawsuit. Tucker Carlson with an unidentified text recipient. It's from 2021. He's super excited that Trump lost the election. All this stuff is redacted, incidentally. And there's really some question as to why. Because the things that you're supposed to be able to keep redacted in a lawsuit in Maryland are trade secrets, are financial secrets, and that's about it.
Yeah, I really.
And there is no justification for this, and you've got a couple of news agencies that are trying to get these redactions removed. But it's basically trying to save somebody from embarrassment. I would bet it's Murdoch. Tucker Carlson, that too, we know are. Okay. We are very, very close to being able to ignore Trump most nights. And then somebody says, I truly can't wait.
I think that's him, yeah.
Two, yeah, right.
Somebody else says, I want nothing more. It does feel very close. Imagine things will get nice starting around mid-February.
Tucker Carlson, I hate him passionately. I blew up at Peter Navarro today in frustration. I actually like Peter.
I wonder what that was. We should maybe...
I can't handle much more of this. The guy says, but he might never leave. It would be hard to ignore if the Manhattan DA or New York AG announces charges on... Yeah, it's ridiculous that people are continuing this charade. Was he pushing the idea that Pence could solve this situation? It is ridiculous that people are pushing this charade, which is exactly what he went on to do night after night. In fact, until this very day.
It's really, yeah, and then goes and does charades.
Tucker Carlson, you understand, is a charlatan. He does not, and the thing is like, I don't care what my news person believes in their heart. But Tucker Carlson's capacity to lie is completely unrestrained, but for what he thinks will raise his profile, make him more famous. A lot of people, like I saw Atreus on Twitter today, was like, why has this guy's got so much money? And he's an heir to
He had to begin with, right?
$1 billion. I don't know. His stepmom, who I think is actually his mom, adopted mom, heir to the Swanson frozen foods fortune. Massive. He also, his real mom had, I guess, a lot of oil leases or something, and he sued with his brother to get a hold of those.
Carlson attended La Jolla Country Day School and grew up in a home overlooking La Jolla Beach and Tennis Club.
Well, to be fair, he was at that day school after he went to the one in Switzerland and then the one in Newport, Rhode Island.
Oh, yeah. Well, who amongst us?
Or before then, I should say. And then his parents were members of the Diamond Club at Trinity University, which is in the highest level of. But so the guy's got plenty of money. And Atreus was like, why does he keep doing this? And I think it was because his mother left him, and it left him with a sort of pathological desire to achieve fame and success. And he will stop at nothing. He will lie. He will lie.
And this is the guy who put Dan White Society in his yearbook.
Yep. Here he is, complaining 2 years ago about the never-ending charade. This is on January 21st. The never-ending charade. Why are people pretending? Why are people engaging in the charade? And here he is, just 2 years later, still engaging in that charade.
And after looking at thousands of hours of footage, we came to the conclusion that many others have reached, which is the Capitol Police were not prepared for what happened. And that's fascinating when you think about it, because there was ample warning. The federal intel and law enforcement agencies knew perfectly well there could be a massive disturbance at the Capitol. But the frontline officers on duty that day didn't know. And yet the people who kept that information from the frontline officers who were overwhelmed by thousands of people milling around the Capitol building, the people who
milling around
the job, who didn't do their job, they were not punished. They were rewarded. And you have to ask yourself, why is that? Here we go.
They were rewarded. Oh, he's developing a conspiracy now that somehow they were encouraged to let this stuff happen. You know, there is a question as to why the military stayed in their barracks. There is a question why the National Guard wouldn't come out. We should dig into that.
Yeah.
There is a question why there were some FBI agents who refused to, who pretended. Remember, they never testified publicly. Remember, after there were sources at the FBI that said that, oh no, we didn't have to restrain Trump from driving our cars,
and
here.
we'll testify about it.
Except for we won't.
Yeah.
Here is my exhibit A as to why Tucker Carlson is a charlatan. He understood 20 years ago on a book tour for his book, Politicians, Partisans, and Parasites. This is back when he wanted to be one of these guys who had integrity. Also, I know for a fact that he went out there and shilled for the Iraq War and didn't care one way or another. But he shilled for the Iraq War. It wasn't until like 2004, after the war and invasion had started, where he started to feel bad about it. Now, he didn't feel bad for the Iraqis. He went on in 2006 to go on a morning talk show and say, oh, I think they're just like monkeys. I don't care about them at all. He didn't care about the human life that was dead. He's not anti-war because it kills people. He's anti-war because it's a distraction to, immiserating people in this country. But here he is in 1999, I believe this is from, writing about, among other people, Bill O'Reilly. And he has a theory about Bill O'Reilly. And it's an interesting theory, and I think it was a valid one for him to have at that time. Listen to this.
Honest Clinton defender will say, yeah, the president didn't see terrorism in its proper context, didn't see it as important as it was.
Another quote from your book, Bill O'Reilly's success is built on the perception that he really is who he claims to be. If he ever gets caught out of character, it's over.
That's right. I say before that, Bill O'Reilly's really talented. He's more talented than I am. He's got a lot more viewers than I do. He's a better communicator than I am. But I think there's kind of a deep phoniness at the center of his shtick. And again, as I say, the shtick is sort of built on this perception that he is the character he plays. He is every man. This kind of he's not right wing. He's a populist. This kind of Irish Catholic populist fighting for you against the powers that be. And that's great as a shtick. But I'm just saying, the moment that it's revealed not to be true, it's over. The moment he gets caught, slapping a flight attendant on the Concorde for not bringing his champagne fast enough, or barking at, one of his subordinates to take the, brown M&Ms out of my bowl and get me a bottle of Evian, or something like that. The second that makes page 6, it's over, right? Because the whole thing is predicated on the fact that he is who he says he is, and just nobody is that person, especially not someone who makes $1 million, or many millions a year, as he does.
Okay. I don't think that's an unreasonable theory to have in 1999. The idea that Bill O'Reilly is going to be exposed. But what happened? Bill O'Reilly was never exposed as the phony that he is. He left Fox because there were millions of dollars of sexual harassment claims against him. Millions that were unresolved, I should say. Some were actually paid off, others that weren't. And I'm quite convinced that Tucker Carlson, who now portrays himself as an everyman fighting against the powers that be, realized at one point, maybe it was after he did Dances with the Stars, people forget how much in the wilderness he was, how desperate for celebrity and fame that he was, that he went on with Dancing with the Stars. I think he realized at one point, Bill O'Reilly never got caught because it's impossible to get caught, because they don't care. Because what he saw after this interview was Rush Limbaugh get arrested for being addicted to OxyContin, or arrested for trying to hide the $9,900 he was taking out of his bank accounts all the time to pay off his OxyContin dealer. A guy who had said for years that the drug addicts were weak and useless and morally repugnant. That's what Limbaugh said. And then all of a sudden he's revealed as an oxy addict to the point where he lost his hearing. Did not impact his relationship with his audience one iota. Tucker Carlson sees that. Tucker Carlson sees Bill O'Reilly get away with all of it. Tucker Carlson has Bill O'Reilly's old spot right now on Fox. And Tucker Carlson learned a lesson. I can do this.
It's a mirror.
With impunity. I can do it with total impunity. I can lie. I can present fake news. And I will never get caught. And as long as I don't get caught, or as long as I don't sexually assault people around here, I am completely safe to do this as long as it drives revenue.
These hogs will eat the slop.
Absolutely. That's what he learned. He learned that lesson very, very well. He does not care. He does not care. He wants to be famous, because my guess is just that he never got over that issue with his mom leaving him. Not a nice thing to do.
I mean, I'd have to hear her side of the story.
I mean, maybe in retrospect, it looks like maybe there was some valid reasons. But that's the Tucker Carlson piece for the day.